Since I started my education, I have been to 3 different elementary schools, 3 different intermediate/middle schools, and 2 high schools. And besides the obvious hardships of moving schools so often, one of the biggest problems that I faced was the different writing standards between all of the schools. And the most challenging of which that I've experienced in regards to writing was moving from my first high school to my second one. The first high school I attended, the standards were not all that high because it was a military school that I went to in Japan. However, the second school that I went to was a decently ranked school in California where I felt like I had to work twice as hard to get the same grades that I used to get at my first school. I still remember how hard it hit me in the gut when I got my first essay grade back from my teacher and realized that I had just failed. Now, before this moment, I had thought of myself as a decent writer, not the best, but definitely not someone who would fail an essay. I also remember how bad I felt when I realized that when I got home that day, I would have to tell my parents what happened and relive the whole experience over again. When I got home, I went straight to my room, and after contemplating it for a little bit, I actually got around to telling my parents, and they told me that I should go and ask my teacher what she was looking for that I missed out in my paper so I could do better next time. This was hard for me because back then I was a very shy person who didn't like talking to other people, especially teachers, but nevertheless, I realized that I would have to talk to her eventually. So that's what I did. I went up and asked my teacher what I could do to improve my grade on my writing. However, I did this a little bit too late, seeing as the second essay had already been turned in and I had received my grade. I did do better on the second essay, but I still did not receive the grade that I was used to getting when I went to school in Japan. So one day after class, I went up to my teacher and asked her if I could talk to her real quickly and just work out what she wanted to see from me in regards to the essays and what she thinks I'm not doing correctly so I can get the score that I was used to. I can still remember sitting down with her, my leg bobbing the whole time because I was so nervous, because I had never taken any steps to ask my teachers for help before this moment. But after this talk, I went back home and told my parents what she was looking for, and they eventually helped me understand and put those ideas into practice since my mom was a teacher and she was good at English and writing. While these strategies helped, the whole rest of the semester I was just playing catch up with my grade, doing little assignments, trying to boost it, and in the end I finished with a grade I was proud of, considering my start, but I still wasn't satisfied that I was doing my best work, and so I continued to try and improve on my papers each time I was assigned a new one. By the time the final semester arrived, I knew we had a big project coming up, which was the junior paper, which is basically just a large research-based essay assignment that every student has to complete during their junior year. Since this was the final paper that I was going to have to do this year, and the only one that will be graded by this teacher ever again, I figured that I should devote most of my free time and time in class to work on the paper, just to prove to myself that I can get the result that I wanted with enough hard work. I also figured that if I could succeed in this class, then it would give me a good foot forward for the next year and the following years after that. So every class period while my friends were goofing off, I tried my hardest to stay on task because I knew that if I fell behind, then I would be working at a disadvantage and I wanted to put my best foot forward. At my school, we had this thing called Wolverine Time, which was basically a free period where you could either hang out with friends, do homework, or talk to teachers about stuff you didn't understand. And every Wolverine time, from the time that the project was assigned until it was turned in and graded, I worked diligently in the library doing the necessary research and putting it into practice in my paper, whereas before I would just hang out with my friends. When the due date was nearing, I felt like I was fully prepared to turn in my final project and that I was proud of what I was going to submit. The day that it was due, I woke up early just to make sure that my paper would print out correctly, and I read the rubric again and again just to make sure that I would receive the maximum amount of points. When I actually arrived in the classroom in the morning, I turned in the project, and I was so nervous but also so relieved that it was over, and that I presented the most polished, finished product that I could have created. And every day after I turned in the paper, I would nervously wait in my seat in the morning just to see if she had graded them and if she was going to give them back yet. The day that we finally got our papers back, I had the same feeling of nervousness that I had experienced before, which when I first saw my score quickly changed into relief when I saw that I had just gotten an 85 on the most important paper that I had to write at the time, and with a teacher who I considered to be a very strict grader.